Throw her out right now! This is not a shelter!
Yes, ma'am. She may not have money, but she still has dignity.
You see me?
You can rest here.
You just made a very important choice.
Given a choice between her job and a stranger, Lorato opened the VIP lounge door. What she didn't know was that the woman she just helped owned the entire building and was searching for someone worthy to inherit her empire. The marble lobby of Marula Crown Grand shimmered under the early Gaborone sunlight, reflecting off towering glass walls and polished stone floors. Every movement was precise. Every uniform was perfect. Every smile rehearsed. Lorato Kagozimang stood behind the customer service desk, adjusting the edge of her neatly pressed Litizi dress, her name badge catching the light. She had arrived exactly at 6:52, as she did every morning. Not because anyone was watching, because she was, because details mattered. Because in a place like this, one small mistake could erase years of quiet effort. Remember, Shego Fatso Muketi's voice cut through the calm as she stepped into the lobby, heels echoing sharply. We do not accommodate problems. We provide experiences. Every staff member straightened instinctively. Lorato nodded along with the others, but something about that sentence stayed with her. Not because it was new, but because it was true in a way that didn't feel right. At exactly 7:18 a.m., the glass door slid open. A woman stepped in. Her clothes were damp from the morning drizzle. Her shoes were worn thin. Her hands trembled slightly as she held onto the strap of a small, faded bag. She did not belong here, and everyone knew it. A few guests glanced over, then quickly looked away. A receptionist at the far desk hesitated, unsure whether to speak. A security guard shifted his weight, already preparing to act. Shego Fatso turned. Her expression didn't change. "Remove her," she said calmly. No hesitation, no question, just a decision. The guard stepped forward. "Ma'am, you can't be here." The woman didn't argue. She didn't beg. She simply looked around as if searching for something she had already lost. Lorato felt it, not pity, recognition. The kind that doesn't come from seeing someone, but from understanding what it feels like to be unseen. Before she could think, she stepped forward. Wait, the word slipped out before she could stop it. The entire lobby froze. Shego Fatso turned slowly. "Excuse me," she said. Lorato didn't step back. "She's not causing trouble," Lorato said, her voice steady despite the weight pressing against it. "She just needs a place to sit, a pause, short, heavy." "Do you understand where you are?" Shego Fatso asked. "Yes," Lorato answered. "Then act like it." There it was, the line, the choice. Lorato glanced at the woman again. Her shoulders were shaking slightly, not from cold, but from something deeper, fear, or maybe exhaustion. Without another word, Lorato removed her own shawl, the bright yellow litizi wrapped around her shoulders, and gently placed it over the woman. The color stood out against everything else in the room. Warm, human, real. "She may not have money," Lorato said quietly, "but she still has dignity, silence, not the polite kind. The kind that comes when something unexpected breaks through a system built to avoid it." Shego Fatso's eyes hardened. "You've crossed a line," she said. Lorato didn't argue. Instead, she reached for the VIP lounge key, the one no entry-level staff should touch without permission, the one that represented access, power, trust, and she opened the door. Gasps rippled through the lobby. "Lorato," someone whispered, but it was already done. The woman stepped inside slowly, as if unsure whether this was real. Lorato stood there, hands still on the door, and in that moment she knew. Not that she was brave, not that she was right, but that there was no going back. Because sometimes a single choice doesn't change your situation. It changes where you stand when everything else begins to fall apart. Behind her, Shego Fatso spoke one last time. "Effective immediately, you're reassigned." Lorato nodded. She expected that. What she didn't expect was the way the woman looked at her. Not with gratitude, not with surprise, but with something deeper, recognition, as if she had just been seen for the first time in a very long time. The next morning, the laundry basement of Marula Crown Grand was already alive long before the sun touched the glass towers above. There were no chandeliers here, No polished marble, no expensive perfume in the air. Only the constant hum of industrial machines, the heavy scent of damp fabric, and the quiet rhythm of people working without being seen. Lorato stood among them dressed in a plain gray uniform. No bright letizia, no polished name badge. Just a temporary tag clipped to her chest. Laundry temporary assignment. She hadn't slept much. Not because she was afraid, but because she was trying to understand how one small decision could change everything so quickly. "You're new?" a voice asked behind her. Lorato turned. A woman in her 40s pushed a cart piled high with linens. Her name tag read Naledi Molefe. "Yes," Lorato said. "I was reassigned for a while." Naledi studied her for a moment. "We don't ask questions here," she said. "We just work." Lorato nodded. "I'll learn," she said. Naledi didn't smile. "You don't need to be fast," she replied. "You need to last." The words lingered. Lorato began sorting sheets, stacking them carefully, counting under her breath. But something felt wrong. She paused. "Naledi, how many sets today?" she asked. "Fun 200. Naledi answered without looking up. Lorato frowned. "There are more than that," she said. Naledi stopped for just a second, then continued folding. "You don't need to count too closely," she said quietly. Lorato understood. Some numbers weren't meant to be checked. They were meant to exist. By 7:15, more workers arrived. Faces tired. Movements automatic. Retabilo sat beside her. "I came to check on you," she said softly, "and to show you something." She pointed to a board. "Names, hours, payments." Lorato stepped closer. Her chest tightened. "The meal allowance," she said. "Cut," Retabila replied. 3 months now. And overtime? Same. We signed papers saying we got paid. If we don't work." Lorato looked at the numbers, perfect on paper, broken in reality. "Did anyone report this?" she asked. Rehabili gave a small, bitter smile. "To who?" she said. "The people signing it are the same ones ordering it." Lorato didn't respond. She didn't need to, because she already knew. At 8 a.m., a man walked in. Not in uniform, not in gray, a navy suit, sharp, controlled. "I'm looking for supervisor," he said. Naledi stepped forward. "That's me." He handed her clipboard. "Cabello Sobega. Internal audit." Lorato looked up. She had heard that name before. Someone who didn't trust clean numbers. Someone who asked questions others avoided. Cabello began checking stacks, counting, observing. Quietly. "The report says 8,000 units this week," he said. "But based on output, we passed that yesterday." Silence. Lorato stepped closer. "We can recount," she said. Cabello looked at her. "You understand the system?" he asked. "Enough," she replied. He nodded. "Then help me." They walked side by side, counting again. Every piece, every stack. No shortcuts, no assumptions. After nearly an hour, Cabello stopped. 8,417 units difference, he said. The number hung in the air. "What does that mean?" Lorato asked. Cabello met her eyes. "It means someone is charging for things that don't exist." Lorato swallowed. "How much?" Cabello turned the page. "About 2. 1 million pula in 6 weeks. No one spoke. 2. 1 million. While workers here were losing meals, while they signed papers that lied for them. Lorato felt something shift inside her. Not anger, clarity, cold and sharp. She had always believed kindness was enough. But kindness didn't fix numbers. "What will you do?" she asked. Cabello didn't answer immediately. "I need more proof," he said. "And someone who sees what others ignore." Lorata looked around, at the workers, at the silence, at the system, then back at him. "What do you need?" she asked. Cabello nodded slightly. "Start by looking," he said. "Really looking." Lorato nodded. "I will." Neither of them noticed in the corner of the room, an older woman stood quietly watching, still in worn clothes, still invisible to everyone else. But her eyes were no longer those of someone lost. They were measuring, understanding, choosing. She watched Lorato for a long moment, then whispered softly, "Not just kind, she sees." And in a system built on silence, that was the most dangerous thing of all. The executive floor of Marula Crown Grand was unnaturally quiet. Sunlight poured through the glass walls, stretching across polished stone floors. Everything here felt controlled, clean, perfect, almost too perfect. Lorato stood outside the CEO's office, her fingers tightening around her temporary ID badge. She had been called up without explanation. No email, no warning. Just one message. "Report to the executive office at 1516. She knocked. "Come in," Shegofato's voice answered. Lorato stepped inside. The office was wide, minimal, how powerful. A black desk centered the room. Behind it, a full glass wall overlooked the city. Kelebogi sat casually to one side, scrolling through her phone. Shegofatso stood by the window. Close the door, she said. Lorato did. The soft click echoed louder than it should have. Do you know why you're here? Shegfatso asked. Because of yesterday, Lorato replied. Not because of. Exactly because of, Shegfatso corrected. She placed a thin document on the desk and pushed it forward. Read it. Lorato picked it up. Her eyes moved across the page. Employee Lorato Gozimang violated security protocol, allowed unauthorized individual access to VIP space, damaged brand image. Lorato stopped. This isn't what happened, she said. Shegfatso didn't react. This is the official version, she replied. Lorato's eyes dropped to the bottom of the page. A blank line waited signature, just sign, Kelebogi said gently. And this ends, Lorato looked at her. What do you mean? She asked. You return to your position, Kelebogile said. No basement, no consequences. No one talks about it again. She paused. And you receive support. 42,650 fula. The number landed softly, but heavily, enough to fix things, enough to make this easier. Lorato stared at the paper. Shegofatso stepped closer. You are smart, she said. Don't turn one emotional mistake into a permanent failure. That wasn't emotion, Lorato replied. It was a choice. The wrong one, Shegofatso said immediately. Kelebogal leaned forward slightly. This world doesn't run on what feels right, she said. It runs on what gets recorded. Lorato looked at the document again. Words, simple, clean, false. She thought about the basement, the missing wages, the fake signatures, the invisible people. Then she thought about the old woman, the shawl, the silence in that lobby. Lorato placed the paper back down. I won't sign, she said. The room went still. Kelebogil exhaled quietly. You're making this harder than it needs to be, she said. Shegofatso nodded once. Then we proceed differently, she said. She pressed a button. The door opened. HR stepped in. Prepare termination paperwork, Shegofatso said. Effective immediately. No emotion, no hesitation, just a decision. Lorato stood still. She expected this, but expectation doesn't soften impact. You have 15 minutes to collect your things, Shegofatso added. Lorato nodded. Thank you for being clear, she said. She turned and walked out. The hallway felt colder now. Or maybe it was just her. No one stopped her. No one spoke. She had already become invisible. The elevator doors opened. She stepped inside, pressed the ground floor. Her reflection stared back at her. Not defeated, not broken, just certain. When the doors opened, she walked out into the open air. The rain had stopped. The city moved on, as if nothing had happened. A black car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down. A man handed her a white envelope. For you. No name? Lorato asked. He shook his head, then drove away. Lorato opened it. One line. The truth doesn't need you to be perfect. It only needs you not to sign a lie. She read it again, then looked back at the towering building behind her. Marula Crown Grand. Still shining, still flawless, still hiding everything. Lorato took a slow breath. For the first time, she wasn't inside it anymore. And maybe that was exactly why she could finally see it clearly. 10:08 a.m. The next morning, the sun over Gaborone burnt brighter, reflecting off wide roads and quiet residential blocks on the edge of the city. Lorato stood in front of a tall steel gate, her fingers still holding the white envelope she had received the day before. No address, no name. Just a long stone path leading inward, lined with neatly trimmed marula trees, ending at a modern house that sat in silence. Lorato wasn't someone who trusted easily. But she also wasn't the kind of person who walked away from a question unanswered. She pressed the bell, a soft click. The gate opened, no one appeared. She stepped inside. Each footstep echoed slightly against the stone, the silence making everything feel more deliberate. The house ahead was minimal yet elegant, glass, wood, and quiet power. Before she could knock, the front door opened. And there she was, the old woman, same worn coat, same quiet presence. But today she wasn't wet, and her eyes were no longer those of someone asking for shelter. Lorato stopped. You? She said. The woman smiled faintly. Come in, she said. Her voice was calm now, steady. Lorato stepped inside. The interior was nothing like the image the woman had presented before. Polished wood floors, contemporary African artwork, subtle luxury without display. This was not the home of someone invisible. Lorato paused. "You live here?" she asked. The woman didn't answer directly. She walked into the kitchen, poured 2 glasses of water, and returned. "Sit," she said. Lorato did, but her eyes never left her. "Who are you?" Lorato asked. The woman tilted her head slightly. "Who do you think I am?" she replied. Lorato hesitated. She remembered the lobby, the shawl, the way the woman had watched everything. "You're not homeless," she said. The woman smiled. "Finally," she replied. "Then why pretend?" Lorato asked. "To see people clearly," the woman said. "No pride, just truth." Lorato studied her. "And what did you see?" she asked. The woman looked back at her. "What did you see?" she returned. The question caught Lorato off guard. She thought of the basement, the numbers, the silence. "I saw a place that looks perfect," Lorato said slowly, "but underneath it isn't." The woman nodded. "Go on." "I saw people working without being paid properly," Lorato continued. "Numbers that don't match. And people who choose not to notice." Silence filled the room. The woman tapped her fingers lightly on the table. "So what will you do?" she asked. Lorato looked down at her glass. "I don't know," she admitted. "I'm not inside anymore." "And that's why you can't act?" the woman asked. Lorato looked up. "No," she said. "That's why I have to be careful." The woman smiled again. "You don't rush," she said. "Good." Lorato frowned slightly. "You didn't call me here for philosophy," she said. "No," the woman replied. "I called you because I need help." Lorato blinked. "Me? Yes." The woman stood, walked to a wooden cabinet, and returned with a file. She placed it in front of Lorato. "Look," Lorato opened it. "Names, dates, amounts, this is," she began. "The training fund for young women," the woman said, "at least on paper." Lorato flipped through the pages. She recognized some names. One in particular. "Neo Gossidinsi," she read. "She was approved," the woman said. "But she never received anything," Lorato replied. The woman nodded. The money disappeared. Lorato closed the file slowly. "What do you want me to do?" she asked. "Collect their stories," the woman said. "Find the people. Let them speak." Lorato hesitated. "You could do that yourself," she said. The woman shook her head. "If I do it, they'll be afraid," she said. "If you do it, they'll tell the truth." Lorato looked at the list again. 73 names, 73 lives interrupted. "And then?" Lorato asked. "Then we decide." The woman said, "We?" Lorato repeated. The woman nodded. Lorato studied her. "Who are you?" she asked again. This time the woman didn't deflect. She lifted her hand. On her finger, a ring, the Marula symbol, the same one displayed in the founder's suite. Lorato's breath caught. "That's not possible," she whispered. The woman said nothing. She didn't need to. Lorato leaned back. "You're not important yet," the woman interrupted gently. "What is important?" Lorato asked. The woman looked directly at her. "You," she said. Lorato froze. "Not because you gave me a seat," the woman continued, "but because you refused to sign a lie even when it cost you everything." Lorato lowered her gaze. "I didn't do it for you," she said. "That's why I trust you," the woman replied. Silence again, but this time it was different. Lorato took a slow breath. "I'll help," she said. Then she looked up again, but on one condition. The woman raised an eyebrow. "I'm not a tool," Lorato said. "If this is about power, I'm out." The woman watched her carefully, then nodded. "This is not about power," she said. She paused. "It's about the people who are never given a voice." Lorato nodded, and for the first time she believed it. But as she stepped out of that house, she didn't yet understand. She had just stepped into something far bigger than truth. Something that could either rebuild or destroy everything. The Marula Crown Grand Convention Hall glowed like a jewel in the heart of Gaborone. Crystal chandeliers reflected off polished floors, scattering light beneath every step of elegantly dressed guests. Modern Setswana fashion flowed in vibrant shades of gold, cobalt blue, and deep coral red. This was not a party, it was a performance. Lorato stood behind the service area, dressed in a plain black uniform, her hair neatly tied back, her face almost unrecognizable without the polished presentation she once wore. No one noticed her. And tonight that worked in her favor. "Keep the tray steady," a supervisor whispered as he passed. "Don't look at the guests. Don't meet their eyes." Lorato nodded. She had heard those rules before, but tonight, she wasn't here to serve. She was here to see. Across the room, Chegofatso Muketsi stood surrounded by investors, her voice smooth, controlled, perfectly rehearsed. Marula Crown is not just a hospitality group, she said. It is a symbol of refinement of standards of the future. Applause followed. Keleboge stood beside her, smiling flawlessly, scanning the room as if deciding who deserved her attention. No one looked down. No one saw the people behind the trays, behind the smiles, behind the silence. No one saw Lorato. She moved slowly between tables, listening. Every word, every tone, every lie disguised confidence. We expect an 18% profit increase next quarter, driven by operational optimization. Lorato paused. Operational optimization. She thought of the basement, the missing meals, the stolen wages. Her grip tightened slightly on the tray, not out of anger, but clarity. Across the room, Cabello stood alone, holding a glass of water, detached from the performance around him. Lorato approached quietly, placing his tray on a nearby table. "Did you find anything else?" she asked without looking directly at him. Cabello didn't turn. "Not here," he said. "Everything here is clean. Clean on the surface," Lorato replied. Cabello nodded. "We need direct evidence," he said. "Not assumptions." Lorato glanced around. "I have a list," she said. 73 names. The training fund. Cabello shifted slightly. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Yes." A brief pause. "We need to get this to independent shareholders," Cabello said. Lorato nodded. Tonight, it wasn't a perfect plan, but it was an opportunity. And opportunities rarely came twice. She picked up her tray and moved toward a group near the stage independent stakeholders, identifiable by the subtle pins on their jackets. 1 step, 2 steps. "Excuse me, what are you doing here?" Lorato turned. Kelebojil. Her smile was gone. "You don't belong here," she said quietly. "I'm working," Lorato replied, steady. Kelebojil's eyes narrowed slightly. "You're not employed here anymore." A few nearby guests began to notice. Not many, but enough. Lorato felt her pulse rise. Not from fear of being exposed, but from knowing she was seconds away from losing her chance. "I'm covering a shift," she said. Kelebogi stepped closer. "You think I don't remember you?" she whispered. Lorato met her gaze. "Some people shouldn't be here," Lorato said. "But they're standing on the stage anyway." A flicker of surprise crossed Kelebogale's face, then vanished. "Security," she called. 2 guards approached. "Escort her out." Lorato clenched her hand. She couldn't let it end here. Not after everything she had seen. She looked toward the shareholders. Just a few more steps, just 1 sentence. But then a crash. A tray hit the floor. Glass shattered. A woman had slipped. Everything turned, not in concern, but in disruption. Lorato didn't hesitate. She ran. "Are you okay?" she asked, kneeling beside the older worker. "I am fine," the woman said, her voice shaking. Blood trickled from her hand. Lorato grabbed the cloth and pressed it gently against the wound. "Don't move," she said. The guards stopped. Kelebogle stood still. Team stretched. No one moved. No one stepped in. Lorato looked up. "Call medical," she said. Someone finally moved. Lorato stayed with the woman. She didn't look at the stage again. She didn't look at the shareholders. She made her choice again. When the medical team arrived, they took over. Lorato stood, and she knew. The moment was gone. She turned toward the table where she had placed the file. It was gone. She froze. 1 second, 2, 3. Then she saw it, in Kelebogale's hand. Their eyes met. "You really thought it would be that easy?" Kelebogale asked. Lorato didn't respond. She just watched. Kelebogale flipped through the pages. "Interesting," she said, then closed it. But not enough. She handed it to a guard. "Burn it." No hesitation, no explanation, just a command. Lorato stepped forward. "Don't too late." The guard walked away. Kelebogi looked at her one last time. "You have kindness," she said, "but you don't understand the game." Then she turned and left. Lorato stood there, watching, not because she lost the file, but because she realized something deeper. Kindness was not enough, not without the power to protect it. A hand touched her shoulder. "Cabello." "Stay calm," he said. "They burned it," Lorato said. Cabello shook his head. "That was a copy," he replied. Lorato blinked. "The original?" she asked. Cabello looked toward the stage, somewhere they would never think to look. Lorato took a breath. For the first time that night, she allowed herself a small smile. Not because things were safe, but because the game had only just begun. Saturday morning, the atmosphere inside Marula Crown Grand had shifted. The glass walls still reflected sunlight. The marble floor still gleamed. The uniforms were still perfectly pressed, but something invisible had changed. A quiet tension moved through the building, not loud, not obvious, just present. The rumors had started. Not full stories, not clear accusations, just whispers in hallways, inside elevators, in staff break rooms. Why were night shifts cut again? Why hasn't the meal allowance been restored? Why did accounting lock the system last night? No answers, but everyone felt it. Something was coming. Outside the building, Lorato stood still, looking up at the towering glass structure she once worked inside. The morning air was warm, but inside her, everything felt colder. She no longer had a badge, no position, no access, but she had something new. The truth. Are you ready? Cabello asked behind her. Lorato turned. Not really, she said honestly. Then she looked at him again. But I don't think I can wait until I am, she added. Cabello nodded. That's why we do this now, he said. They walked into a small cafe across the street, quiet, simple, safe enough to speak. Cabello placed a file on the table. I checked everything, he said. Not just the linens, not just the training fund. He opened it. The money moved through 3 shell companies, he continued, all connected to one person. Lorato looked down. The name was clear. Shegofatso Mukotsi, no doubt. No confusion. How much? Lorato asked. Cabello didn't look up. 37,806,500 pula, he said. The number didn't feel real. It wasn't just money, it was opportunities stolen. Lives delayed, trust broken. Lorato closed her eyes for a moment. We have to expose this, she said. Not like that, Cabello replied immediately. He leaned forward. If we go public now, the bank freezes everything, he said. Operations stop. Staff don't get paid. Hundreds lose their jobs in a week. Lorato went silent. She hadn't thought about that. So we stay quiet, she asked. Cabello shook his head. No, he said, we choose the moment. Lorato looked at him. What moment? The one where the truth doesn't destroy innocent people, he said. Silence settled between them. This wasn't just about right and wrong anymore. It was about consequences. What's the plan? Lorato asked. Board meeting, Monday, Cabello said. If we have enough evidence, we force intervention before accounts are frozen. And if we don't? Lorato asked. Cabello paused. Then everything collapses. No softness, just truth. Lorato took a breath. I won't let that happen, she said. Cabello studied her. Then we need more voices, he said. Who? The people affected, he answered. Not number stories. Lorato nodded. I'll find them. Cabello hesitated. There's one more problem, he said. What? Shegofaso knows someone is digging, he said. And she won't stay still. At that moment, Lorata's phone vibrated. A message from Rethabili. Where are you? Emergency staff meeting. Something's happening. Lorato looked at Cabello. We need to go back, she said. 8:57 a.m. The main lobby was filled with staff. No elegance, no calm, just tension. Shegofatso stood at the front. We are initiating internal restructuring, she announced. Some departments will be adjusted for efficiency. Whispers moved through the crowd. 2 hotel branches may close temporarily, she continued. This is necessary. Fear replaced silence. Anyone who disagrees, she added, may resign immediately. No one moved. No one spoke. Lorato stood in the back. She saw Naledi, Retabili, the basement workers, all quiet, all watching. You see? Retabilo whispered. We can't win. Lorato turned to her. This isn't about winning, she said. It's about doing what's right. Retabilo shook her head. What's right doesn't pay rent, she said. Lorato paused. She had said that once. Now it came back to her. But this time she didn't step back. Neither does silence, she replied. Retabile didn't answer. Lorato looked forward again. At Chegofatso, confident, controlled, certain. But Lorato knew that certainty was breaking. She pulled out her phone. Her force typed one message. Are you ready? Across the city, inside a quiet house, an older woman looked at her, screened. A small smile appeared. It's time, she said. Back in the lobby, the announcement ended. People began to disperse. Slowly, quietly, heavy steps. Lorato didn't move. She knew this was the moment. If she stayed silent, everything would continue. If she spoke, everything might fall apart. She looked around at the people who had endured too much for too long. She took a breath. then stepped forward. No invitation, no permission, just a step. We need to talk about the truth, she said, not loud, but enough. And sometimes it only takes a few people turning around to start a storm. Sunday afternoon, the garden behind a quiet private restaurant on the outskirts of Gaborone was calm enough to hear the wind brushing through marula leaves. Golden sunlight stretched across the stone pathway, peaceful on the surface. But beneath it, a decision was waiting. Lorato arrived early. She sat at a simple wooden table, a glass of water untouched in front of her. Her hands rested on the table, but not still. Not fear, awareness. This meeting was different. This wasn't about gathering information. This was about choosing. Footsteps approached. Lorato didn't turn immediately. She already knew. You shouldn't be here alone, Kelly Bugley said as she pulled out the chair. Lorato looked up. You came, she said. Kelly Bugley nodded. I was curious, she replied. Silence lingered. Both of them understood the first words would define everything. Lorato spoke first. You know what's happening, she said. Not a question. Kelebogi didn't deny it. I know parts of it, she answered. Lorato held her gaze. You know where the money went, she said. Kelebogil exhaled quietly. You don't understand, she said. It's not that simple. Then explain it, Lorato replied. Kelebogil paused. My aunt didn't start like this, she said. She used to believe in things like you do. Lorato stayed silent. Then the world changed her. Kelebogil continued. Or maybe she learned the truth. What truth? Lorato asked. That the world doesn't reward kindness, Kelebogil said. It rewards control. Lorato shook her head slightly. No, she said. It rewards what we allow. Their eyes locked. No distance. No politeness. Just two different ways of seeing the same reality. What do you want from me? Kelebogil asked. Proof, Lorato said. Emails, contracts, anything that connects the money. Kelebogil gave a small, bitter smile. You think I'd just hand that over? She asked. Lorato didn't blink. I think you already considered it before you came, she said. Silence. Then slowly Kelebogil reached into her bag. She placed a small black device on the table. This is everything, she said. Internal emails, shell contracts, transfer records. She paused, and things I shouldn't have. Lorato didn't touch it. Why? She asked. Kelebogil let out a quiet breath. Because I don't want to become her, she said. Not dramatic, not emotional, just honest. Lorato nodded. But I won't protect you from what happens next, she said. I'm not asking you to, Kelebogil replied. She leaned forward slightly. I just don't want everything to collapse, she added. If this explodes, hundreds of people lose their jobs. Lorato didn't answer immediately. This was the real question. Not truth, but consequence. You want me to stay silent? Lorato asked. No, Kelebogil said. I want you to control how the truth is told. Lorato studied her. You're asking me to do what you didn't, she said. Kelebogil nodded. Yes. Lorato took a slow breath. Do you know how many people were affected? She asked. Yes. How long they waited? Yes. Then why stay silent? Kelebogil looked down. Because I thought I could fix it from the inside, she said. Lorato asked one simple question. Did you? Kelebogil didn't answer. Because the answer was already there. No. Lorato reached forward. This time she picked up the device. I'll use this, she said. But I won't turn this into revenge. Kelebogil nodded. That's all I'm asking. At that moment, a voice cut through the quiet. Very touching. Both women turned. Shego Fatso stood behind them. No footsteps. No warning. Just presence. She wore a gold-toned dress that reflected the late sunlight. Her expression controlled her always. You really thought I wouldn't know, she said. Kelebogil stood. Enough. Shego Fatso cut her off. Her eyes moved to the device, then to Lorato. 12 million pula, she said. No build-up, no hesitation. And a villa, and a regional director position, she continued. You'll never worry about money again. The air shifted. Kelebogil watched Lorato closely. Lorato didn't react. And in return, she asked. Shego Fatso smiled slightly. You disappear, she said. With everything you think you know, silence, wind stilled. 3 people, 1 choice. Lorato looked at the device, then at Kelebogil, then back at Shego Fatso. You think I'm afraid of being poor? She asked. No answer. I'm afraid of becoming someone I can't respect, Lorato said. That was it. Shego Fatso studied her. No anger, just calculation. Then you'll learn, she said, what it costs to stand alone. Lorato shook her head. I'm not alone, she said, and she tightened her grip on the device. That moment changed everything. No return, no safety, only truth, and whatever came with it. Shegofotso turned away. Prepare the board meeting, she said. Tomorrow morning. She paused at the exit. We'll see who really holds power. Then she left. Kelebogoli stood still. Lorato didn't move either. No words were needed. Tomorrow everything would be decided, not by promises, but by choice. 9:12 a.m., Monday morning, the 28th floor of Marala Crown Grand was filled with a silence no one dared to name. The boardroom lights were cold and precise. A long black table stretched across the room, surrounded by leather chairs. A massive screen waited at the front. This was not just a meeting, this was a decision. Shegofatso Muketsi stood at the head of the table, dressed in a deep blue structured gown, her posture flawless. In front of her lay a thick folder document prepared for a full ownership transfer to an external investment group. Everything was ready. Everything was controlled. At least she believed it was. We begin, she said calmly. Under emergency provisions, the board will vote on transferring control of Marula Crown to a strategic partner. Some nodded. Some stayed silent. No one objected. Not because they agreed, but because they didn't yet have a reason to say no. The door opened. A security officer stepped in. Apologies, ma'am, he said. Someone is requesting entry. No one enters, Shegofatso replied without turning. She says she has the right. A pause. She? Shegofatso repeated. Before she could respond, a voice came from the doorway. I don't ask for permission. The entire room turned. A woman stepped in, not in worn clothes, not invisible, but in a royal purple Setswana dress accented with gold, her presence commanding without effort. Her steps were slow, certain, unshaken. Lorato stood at the entrance, her heart pounding. She wasn't supposed to be there, but she came anyway. And when she saw the woman, she understood. This was the moment. Mapula Chegofatso said. For the first time, her voice wasn't fully controlled. The room stirred. People stood. Others exchanged looks. The name needed no introduction. Madame Mapula Sebina, founder of Marula Crown, the woman who built everything. The woman who disappeared, and now she had returned. You arrived without notice? One board member asked. Mapula didn't respond. She walked to the head of the table, facing Chegofatso. I don't need notice to enter my own house, she said. Her voice was quiet, but absolute. Shegofatso steadied herself. This is a critical meeting, she said. Mapula glanced at the folder. I see, she said. Selling what you didn't build often feels critical. The air tightened. This is for the company's benefit. Shegofatsa replied. For whose benefit? Mapula asked. No one answered. Lorato remained near the door, watching. For the first time, Shegofatso wasn't in control. She was being seen. Mapula raised her hand. An assistant passed her a small device. Kelebogele stood behind her, silent but no longer hiding. Shegofatso saw and understood. You, she said quiet. Open it, Mapula instructed. The screen lit up. Emails, contracts, transfers, 37 in 65 100 plus. 3 shell companies, one name, Shegofatso Mukotsi. Silence filled the room, not because of the money, but because the truth had finally been spoken aloud. Shegofatso stood still. No denial, no panic, just calculation. Numbers don't tell the whole story, she said. Mapala nodded. Then let's tell all of it. A video appeared. The lobby. An old woman being asked to leave. Lorato stepping forward. The shawl, the chair, the silence. The board watched. No one spoke. This is irrelevant, Shegofatso said. This is culture, Mapula corrected. She looked around. This is how this company treats those without power. She paused, and that is where it began to rot. No one argued. No one could. Mapula turned toward the entrance. Lorato. Lorato stepped forward. This time, no one ignored her. No uniform, no title, just presence. She stood in the center of the room, every eye on her, not dismissing her, but waiting. Mapula spoke. You saw the truth and you refused to stay silent. Lorato said nothing. Mapula continued. I choose you as my successor. The room erupted. Shock, confusion, disbelief. Shegofatsu turned sharply. You can't, I can, Mapula said. And I have. Lorato stood still, no smile, no reaction. Then she spoke. I refuse. Silence again. Deeper this time. Mapula did not look surprised. Why? She asked. Lorato stepped forward. I don't want an empire because I offered someone a chair, she said. She looked around. These people need more than that. She turned back. If I accept it's on my terms. The room shifted. What terms? Mapula asked. Full independent audit, Lorato said. Restitution for every person affected, employee representation on the board, and 1 year probation. She paused. If I fail, they remove me. Silence. Then Mapula smiled. That, she said, is why I chose you. Not kindness, but understanding, power and who it must serve. Outside, sunlight washed over the city. Inside, an empire changed hands. Not through wealth, but through choice. 1 year later, the lobby of Marula Crown Grand glowed once again under the early morning light. Glass walls reflected the clear Botswana sky. Marble floors shone flawlessly. Staff uniforms, now redesigned in vibrant gold and cobalt blue, blended modern elegance with cultural pride. Everything looked the same, but nothing was the same. Lorato Kogosimang stood on the upper level, overlooking the entire lobby. She wore a Litizi dress in yellow and blue, the same colors as the shawl she had once placed on a stranger's shoulders at exactly 7:18 a.m. on a different morning, 1 year, not long, but enough to change a system. The final monthly report, Kabelo said, stepping beside her, handing over a file. Lorato flipped through it quickly. The training fund? She asked. Fully restored, Kabelo replied. 41,286,300, Pula returned. Lorato nodded. And the names? 67 returned to the program, he said. 6 chose other paths. Lorato smiled faintly. At least this time they had choice, she said. Kabelo didn't respond. He looked down at the lobby. You did this, he said. Lorato shook her head. We did, she corrected. Not humility, truth. Below, a group of new employees were being trained. A manager stood in front of them, explaining procedures. But something had changed. Customers matter, he said. But people matter more. No one laughed. No one dismissed it, because they had seen what happened when that wasn't true. Across the room, Retha Bilal stood with a group of young women, pointing at a display board for the development program. She was no longer an event manager. She had become the director of employee development. After everything, she had returned and openly admitted the reports she once signed. No one forced her. She chose. And for the first time in her life, she felt lighter. Lorato's gaze shifted to the corner of the lobby, a chair, not VIP, not reserved. Just a simple wooden chair placed beside a small table with water. A small sign next to it read, anyone may sit here. No branding, no performance, just an invitation. You kept it, Kabelo said. Lorato nodded. That's where everything began, she replied. A quiet moment passed. Do you ever think, what if you chose differently that day? Kabelo asked. Lorato didn't answer immediately. She looked at the chair, then beyond it. No, she said, because I know I chose right, not because of the outcome, but because she could live with it. In another part of the city, Mapula Sibina sat by a large window, looking out over Gaborone. She no longer ran operations directly. Ownership had been placed into a trust. No single person could hold all power again. She hadn't lost control, she had redefined it. An assistant entered. The annual report is ready, he said. Mama Pula nodded. Leave it. She didn't open it. Instead, she watched the city, the movement, the people, the small decisions that change everything. Where is Lorato? She asked. In the lobby. Mapula smiled slightly. Always the lobby, she said. Not the office, not the boardroom, but the place where people meet. Elsewhere, Shego Fatso Muketsi sat in a quiet, modest room. No glass walls, no polished, no authority. In front of her was a piece of paper, a letter. She had written it many times. Torn it, started again. Not to ask for forgiveness, but to understand herself. I believed power would protect me from being overlooked, she wrote. But I became the one who overlooked others. She paused. No tears, no drama, just truth. I do not ask to return, she continued. I only want to understand where I went wrong. She placed the pen down. No one asked her to write it. But some truths cannot remain unspoken. Back in the lobby, Lorato walked down the stairs. Slowly, not rushed. A year ago, she had chased opportunity. Now she walked with responsibility. The front doors opened. A woman stepped inside. Simple clothes, uncertain eyes. She looked around, unsure if she belonged. A year ago, no one would have seen her. But today, a receptionist stood immediately. Welcome, she said warmly. Would you like to sit? She gestured to the chair. The woman hesitated. Is that allowed? She asked. Of course, the receptionist replied. You're a guest. No questions. No judgment. Just humanity. Lorato stood a few steps away. She didn't intervene. She didn't need to, because the system had learned, not because someone was watching, but because it had changed. Cabello stepped beside her. You see, he said. Lorato nodded. I do. She looked at the chair. The shawl was gone. But what it stood for remained. This empire doesn't belong to one person anymore, she said. Cabello looked at her. Then who does it belong to? Lorato smiled gently. To the people who are no longer invisible. Sunlight filled the space. The chair remained. The woman sat. The staff smiled. No music, no final speech, just a quiet moment. And sometimes those are the clearest signs that everything has truly changed. Late one afternoon, as golden sunlight stretched across the glass facade of Marula Crown, Lorato stood alone on the highest balcony. The city below was still moving, still alive, but for the first time in a year, everything felt lighter. She was no longer the girl trying to prove she was right, no longer the one fighting against an entire system. She was simply a leader keeping her promise. Mapula stepped out and stood beside her. You didn't change the world, she said softly. Lorato smiled. I know, she replied. I only changed the way the world treats those who are weaker. Mapula nodded. And that is enough, she said. Below, the chair was still there. A stranger sat quietly, and the staff member approached with a glass of water. No one looked at them with judgment. No one asked them to leave. There was no miracle, only a system that had finally learned how to be human. And sometimes, that is the greatest thing of all. This story is not about how one act of kindness leads to a great reward. If that's how you see it, you've missed the most important point. Lorato was not given an empire because she was timed. She was chosen because she was willing to pay the price for truth, even when no one promised to protect her. What makes this story powerful is a difficult question. How many times do we stay silent just because we believe one person can't change anything? Retha Bidil stayed silent. Kele Bogal stayed silent. And that silence allowed the wrong to exist far longer than it should have. The truth doesn't need you to be perfect, but it does need you not to turn away when you see it. And here's something many people don't want to admit. If good people keep avoiding power, power will fall into the hands of those who don't care about others. Lorato understood that. She didn't just choose what was right, she chose to stand where she could protect what was right. So, if you're watching this story, ask yourself, if you were Lorato, would you risk everything to protect one truth? If your answer is yes, then you may be stronger than you think. Comment one word, dignity, if you believe dignity is more valuable than money. And don't forget to follow the channel for more stories that challenge the way you should see what seems ordinary.